Welcome back, everybody, to On the Edge of Shadow. This is Shapes in the Dark. We see the curtains of the stage open just moments after our shaman of Agion has fell into the mud. He's been given a very haunting goodnight kiss from an entity that we've not been able to identify just yet. Some hours later, his companions awaken in their hovel just maybe 200 yards away, behind a light closed door. The cockerel crows as the dawn, the Gloom Willow cycle blushes the horizon there. Amorous Thorn, describe your character for us.
Amorous Thorn is a fairfolk. Yes, I am. Dawn fairfolk, to be exact. He's hitting. He's a little older than 250 cycles, but not quite 300 cycles. Comes and goes depending on his demeanor that day. His skin is actually a literal light golden tinge to it, especially when what little light does come out and hits it in just the right way. He's actually relatively short, a little over 5 feet. Someone you could probably miss in the crowd if you weren't really paying attention. That is if it wasn't for his hair, which is black but also has multicolored tips to it, which if you know what you're looking for, you can kind of pick that out of the crowd. His eyes, when they focus on you, have not quite a sky blue tinge to them, but if you ever see him get emotional, you see that storm brewing just beneath the surface there. At the moment, he is crashed out, still probably just starting to rouse with the cockerel crowing.
The cockerel crows a second time as Fernaleus starts from what nightmare that he had been suffering from this past evening.
Fernaleus sits bolt upright in his bed that he's very, very happy to have. For the night, he'd stripped to the waist, and his amorous thorn is to the sun. Fernaleus is the moon. As an Umbriad, he has skin that is all but alabaster white, hair of red and black, with as the light hits it from their little small fire, the red highlights are picked out of it, a bit of an undertone to it. He has eyes of amber at the moment. That when his passions stir, tend to shade more towards red. He stands up and begins his morning ritual of taking care of taking care of himself. Wiping the bits, wiping off anything happens to have attached itself from the bed that night, and shakes out his robes and throws them on. These robes are voluminous, to say the least, wrapping around him and concealing the form underneath, which, by the way, is very well defined. He has, for those who know, he has a dancer's body, corded muscles, but very lean, almost as if he's chiseled from alabaster itself. He wraps that around him, reaches for his cloak, and notices the bed across the way that Tane should have slept in has been untouched, just the night before. Looks over at Thorn for a moment, and he says, "I'll check the stables just in case he decided to sleep with the mare last night, but I don't like that he didn't come back."
to your knowledge, Tane may or may not have been up for a piss in the middle of the night, but he's normally quite sound of wit to come back. But again, yes, this is quite disquieting for you. The cockerel crows a third time, and you now begin to hear the village start to stir and wake up. Somewhere off in the distance, someone knocked something metallic over, and someone curses on the wind. Like a hammer just dropped. It was the blacksmith dumped a bag of metal out on some scrap. How do you wish to proceed, gentlemen?
Once Fernlaeus gets his usual garb on, his cloak over that over those robes, and he belts his sword belt on, which of course has this falchion hanging from it, a curved blade of exotic design. He'll reach over to the side of the room and pick his wooden shield up. He has. There's actually a pile of other things there as well, things that him and Thorn had brought in. A bronze shield they had recovered from one of the brigands the other day, and a few of the weapons that were a little better quality. But Fernlaeus still reaches for that wooden shield. He's had it with him quite a while. He says, "I'm going to go out and look for Tane. I'll check the stables. Do you want to check around and see if he's maybe bedded down one of the village wenches?"
Thornwood, he's still kind of groggy as the second crow came out, and his partner began to talk, and he's kind of like, yeah, I can go check the wenches. I need to see where they are anyway. He gets kind of that trademark smirk of his for a second. As he sits up, he'll actually he'll grab his sheaths of daggers that he has, and he'll loop them around himself, secure them in place. He'll make sure that the makeshift sling he has for his arm is nice and secure, so his elbow is in tight to his side. Surprisingly, it doesn't hurt quite as much as the previous day, but he knows he still can't do much with it. He will grab his cloak with the hood, but he actually will leave his shield and loot behind today. He'll leave it in the hut. And with that, he'll look at his partner, and I assume they will walk out the door together and go their separate ways.
As we walk out, Fern looks over at Thorn and says, "I thought you already knew where all the pretty ones were." Huh. You're falling off your game, my friend.
Not in every town, and I haven't really tried to catch anything since, as a gesture to his arm, this happened.
Yeah, but you can use that to have them tend to you. I mean, even I know that one.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm off my game, so I don't have my music as much anymore.
That is a shame. We'll have to find a way for that music to come back somehow.
We'll see.
I wonder if they have any books of music around here. He sort of, when in his thoughts, sort of wanders off towards the stables.
Very distantly, in Tane's mind, he hears a peal of a cockerel. Whether or not here on the mortal realm it's the first or the third crow, but it's distant to you. You feel a chilling wind come upon you, and you kind of have like that I'm really chilly, kind of like piss shiver kind of thing going on. And you slowly come back to us, and you're laying in the mud, kind of like half crumpled there in the state that she left you. And when your eyes do begin to flutter open, the cold, the wet, and the rain quickly bring you back to your senses, and you realize you're half disheveled. Like, you kind of have this moment of you're half naked, but your clothes are hanging off of you. You're like, did she fuck me? Well, as the morning dew, coupled with that almost Danish wind, snapped you back to your senses. Describe your character for us.
Kane is rather tall for his upbringing, his ancestry. He's a Geet, a northern barbarian. His physique is that of a barbarian, not to be too repetitive. Currently, he has covered his horsehair shawl, if you will. It's a collar. It is soaked and mingled with mud and so on, as is his face. And as he is rolling over, and he just begins to groggily look up at the sky that is cloudy, and there's probably a mist in the air, probably a slight fog.
Of course, it's a beautiful sky this morning. You feel fantastic. This is the best you felt in years, actually. A great many cycles.
He sits up and on his knees and begins looking at himself from his hands down his arms, and he realizes that his blackened fingernails are once again whole. He sees the pale skin, and as he begins to look up his arm, he notices that his hair is reverted. It's reverted to that, back to the black of that of his ancestry. And as he's leaning over, he can see his mop of hair hanging over his face, and he realizes that his hair is also black. Once reddish hue to his distinctive hair is gone, but he can't help but appreciate where he's at, and he kind of collects his thoughts. And I am thinking cognitively, other than the fact that maybe I'm just waking up, right?
Yeah. You're just beginning to process everything, and there's just a sense of it's an otherworldly euphoria that you're kind of like in. You're cognizant, but there's also a haze that you feel great, despite obviously being sore in a number of intimate places here.
Yeah. And as he stands up, he straightens his jerkin and sort of he starts to brush off the mud and just shrugs because he's just not doing any good. But he looks up to the sky and he lets out this whoop that is known of the Geats. It's just this loud "Hoo!" sound, like just echoes through off the hills, as he's holding his hands up, and he says, "Agiun, thank you for the blessings you've given me and he stops and he thinks about it and he says, "Have I wronged you?" And he begins to feel tumult in his belly as he thinks about, he's starting to relive what happened as he walked out and was embraced. And it's at that moment that he reaches into his mouth and he pulls out a couple hairs, black hairs, from his mouth. And he flicks them aside, and he then tastes the remnants of Malcor. Smalgora,
with that,
rather.
so with that, as Fernleus approaches the stables and peeks inside to see if his friend is in there with the mayor looks at him like it's offended that he's looked in on her in the morning, and it wasn't her companion. He looks around and he sees off at the edge of the village Tane standing there doing something with his mouth, apparently only partially dressed from what I've from what he sees. And he looks, sort of squints his eyes to make sure he's actually seeing that, and he yells out, "Tane!" and starts hurrying that way.
And Tane, hearing his name, he turns, and you see the full prowess of a Geet standing at attention as his trows are down around his ankles.
Well, Fernleus, being of the Umbriads, admires for a moment, but as he gets close to his friend, he says, "You should cover that up. The ladies here have probably never seen that.
Oh, they've seen that. Not
Only
mine,
on horses,
but
my friend. Only on horses." He starts
He
looking
reaches-
around for the clothing. He says, "I know why you worship that god." He looks around to help gain Tane's clothes and such. And says, "You had a heck of an exciting night. Which one of these ladies here did you bed? And why are you out here?"
Oh, I'm parched. I feel like I've been repeatedly doing push-ups all night.
You probably have. Put here. He sort of starts
Push up.
picking up things off the bits of clothing and such off the ground and sort of tossing over to Tane. "Let's get you back and get some liquids into you, my friend. I mean, is that poor girl going to be able to walk today, or you'll become a bush kid for some kind of healing for her?"
He pulls up his pants and he does the drawstring on him, and he rubs his palms on his thighs before reaching up and clapping Fern on the back. And says, "That was no mortal."
Not
And as you're
anymore.
looking into his eyes, you see that
Wait.
the creases have extended past on his, the laughing lines.
Mhm.
And there's accentuation between his cheek and the line that runs down, as he looks probably about 5 to 6 years older than he did before, and his hair is stark black, like that of what you have read about the Geats.
Fern looks at him sort of hard, and at first he had noticed that his friend did look a bit older, but then again, sometimes that happens after a vigorous night, especially if you've been drinking, having that aged look to your face, the drooping, sagging face that you would possibly have from a hangover. But now he's noticed that those lines are a bit deeper, as he said, and he sort of steps back for a moment, and he said, "That was no mortal." So he says that again. He says, "Were you attacked by one of the? Was there a vampire here last night?" And he reaches up and grabs Tane's face and starts moving his head to see if there's any wounds in his neck.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. I just
I'm gonna do a lore test real quick as I'm looking at him.
Go for it.
Let's see.
Amherst, of course, is walking up while this is all going on. It's like, well, brings me into time of your life, doesn't it?
I rolled a 20 on my lore test.
You pegged Tane for a mortal man of about 30 cycles, which for them is, I mean, he's not old, but he's definitely not a spring chicken anymore. And there's something wrong here. There's something of the supernatural there that possibly has aged him. How the source of such a thing, you still don't know.
He's like, "No marks, So do you feel okay, my friend?
I feel great.
Usually after vampires, from what I understand, you feel drained and lethargic. That wouldn't fit.
Can I get a well, to understand what happened would be a cult insight to better put it into my.
Yep. Yes, that would be a cult insight.
Okay. Ooh, 29.
Yeah, you add that definitely was a banshee that decided to play tonsil hockey with you.
Based on my cunning, or the fact that I'm an academic, could I put 2 and 2 together as to what happened with the fight and the bandits and
How do you mean?
number? Well, understanding that this might have something to do with this.
Oh, so you mean making an oath to the Banshee Queen and her possibly sending somebody out to cleanse you?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That would be a pretty easy leap for you with your background and your spirituality.
I think that I was visited by one of the pantheon, the Malgora. As I start urging him to walk in, I'm not feeling comfortable out here.
Let's go get some soup in you, my friend. He looks over at Thorn with a bit of concern in his eyes after hearing that name, Malgora. Do an academics check real quick to find out what I know about Malgora. 25.
Damn shit, I'm muted. Yeah, Malgora's the Banshee Queen. She's associated with obviously banshees, sadness, suffering, as well as melancholy, and kind of a lot of funeral dirges are dedicated to her, not specifically for her, but a lot of troubadours write dirges for her, as she is a deity that is perpetually suffering. Distant relations of our current characters will remember that Grant's previous Atean character actually worshipped the Banshee Queen.
Yes. Okay. So awesome. He thinks about that for a moment and sort of looks back out toward the forest. And he sort of says, musing out loud, banshees and leshen, this forest might be. No, it couldn't be. Not with the vampires in the area. He looks over at Thorn.
Come on, spit it out.
I will put in here that you've closed the front door of your hovel by now, so you do indeed have privacy.
Occult insight to see if I can. There we go. There we go. It's a 29 on my occult insight.
What are you trying to divine?
I'm trying to divine, with all of these different things here, could it possibly be that this grove of trees might have some kind of connection to the Unseelie?
Maybe.
Okay. So,
you do know that banshees are considered part of the Unseelie.
Right. So, and being the fact that the Umbriads are too, for the most part. And yeah, okay.
It's kind of interesting that banshees are indeed fairies, but they also function like ghosts and or other more powerful hauntings.
Well, look at the origin of the name Banshee.
It's a fairy woman.
B-A-N-S-H-I, yeah, fairy woman, literally.
Mm-hmm.
is what the word actually means. As he closes the door, he looks at Thorn and says, "We may be near a stronghold of the Unseelie." And he looks at Thorn with a bit of concern, being as the Dawn Fair folk are typically associated with the Seelie Fae in general. Although it's not unheard of for them to have congress with the Unseelie.
You're not enemies, but it's a
it's
little.
just,
We're not friends.
Right, you're not friends.
Yeah. At those words, you're actually going to see Thorn do an eye roll. He's like, as if this trip could get any better. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Well, I'm just thinking if this vampire group is coming this way, we may have pitched battle here. It might not be a bad idea for us to sit down to the babushkas and see if maybe we can do some appeasing of the Unseelie if they are here, and at least ask them not to interfere on the enemy's side. If not, at least if they do not wish to participate directly, at least do not hinder us.
You can see what they have to say about that anyway, yeah.
So, and he looks over at Tane and says, "You probably want to get yourself checked out as well. I'm not sure what the long-term effects of having Congress with the Banshee would be, but he looks over at Thorn and he says, "You got to see the size." And he sort of points to Tane's lower portions. He says, "Now I know why the mayor's so happy all the time."
Oh my God!
My word! And Ferd is still at this point, he's bit mind boggled. But
the word jealous, not mind boggled.
No, not jealous, just admiringly mind boggled.
Keith, that's a point of inspiration. Well done.
Oh, well, thank you very much, sir. I do appreciate that. But he does look at Tane and say, "I don't know what the long-term effects of that may be, and I would not want you to lose the use of that." So
I appreciate that, and I appreciate your sentiment. But as he's sitting there shaking his, cleaning his stuff off, he sets it aside and he says, I first must do my morning duties to Agiun." And
yes,
he leaves his gear for the moment and just picks up some food and then goes out to at least feed his mare and pray to Agiun and hopefully make things better. And so he goes out and does ministrations and as a shaman.
Fantastic. You should be full on your spell points, I believe.
Right, but the idea is that mornings are typically the worship time, and
I know. I know.
Okay.
I'm wondering if you're wanting to actually go ahead and describe that for us, or are you meaning to just do it quick and then come back? Do you want like a separate scene or not?
No, that's fine. He's just going to go out and do his prayers and feed the horse and stuff. So
we will reconvene the scene when you come back then.
Ferdlaeus will actually, if he sees a young boy or girl running by the place,
right,
he'll basically grab one of them and say, "Can you have one of the babushkas come by at her convenience? My friend Tane needs to be looked at."
Oh yeah, the one of the little girls runs off immediately to go speak to her grandmother, and she brings the Nemersian babushka Urga to you just about a good 10 minutes later. She's quite happy to see you guys this morning. Bids you good morning, gives you a hug, and asks you how you've slept.
Myself and Thorne slept well, and apparently Tane did as well, but he should be back any moment. He was attending to his morning prayers. He may have run afoul of a banshee last night. Well, I'm not sure if it would be a foul or not. He seems older,
but her eyebrows disappear into her hairline. So a banshee in the village.
I don't think it was in the village. We found him on the outskirts.
Oh.
So
is he alive?
He is.
Oh.
We just would like
he's
to
quite lucky.
Oh, yes, he is. Extremely lucky. Just for a moment there, Fernley sort of stares in the distance for a moment, remembering. Then he shakes his head and comes back and says, that's a different story, man. I wanted to have someone look at him to make sure that there's no more long-lasting effects that he might have to look forward to encountering. I've heard tales, all kinds of horrible tales, but I don't know any practical knowledge of these things.
Do you know the nature of this meeting? She just...
Well, when I found him, he was partially unclothed.
He had sexual congress with a banshee.
I don't know for sure. He seemed to believe that he had.
I just like way real fucking wide. Like never heard of this shit before. Well, she's where's Tane now?
He's attending to his morning prayers. He should be back momentarily.
Oh. She kind of get this like shell-shocked look, like she's never. You can do that sort of thing and live. Or
I don't know what the situation was.
Oh no, that's the expression on her face. But as Tane returns, you come back to see one of the babushkas, the Nemersian babushka that you'd met previously. She's normally quite swarthy and almost in a Mediterranean fashion to her, but she's a little pale. She looks at you wide-eyed, her eyebrows and her hairline. She's just kind of like taking like the image of you, and you've got this bounce in your stride, like a well-to-do prostitute's bounce in her stride, kind of.
I was young. I needed the money.
Right. Hey, how do you keep warm in winter?
So I'm walking in with probably this sack that had the food in it, and I walk in and
a sack of something.
Yeah. Set it down, and as I look over and I say, "Oh, good morrow, grandmother."
She just kind of looks at you wide-eyed. Good morning.
Good
Are
morning.
You well?
For the most part, he grabs himself in the crotch, and I need a good bath, a good scrubbing, but
Fernaleus told me that you had a tryst, a midnight tryst with a banshee. She looks at Fernaleus. She looks back at Tane.
I don't know if I would call it unwilling, but not against my will. I didn't have much choice in the matter. First, I just, sometimes in the heat of battle, we make with oaths and epithets that we don't necessarily. The darkness carries us at times, and I believe that it may have had something to do with the battle of the bandits. We I sent them to Malgora in my rage, and it appears that she took them. And in return, she did age me, but she has removed the taint. I am atoning with Agiun as we speak, but it was a kindness in a way.
She cocks her eyebrow at you. She looks back at Fernaleus. And she looks back at Tane. Huh. We don't have good relations with the banshees that inhabit this area.
Well, I'm glad, because it would have been awkward with more than myself involved in the relations.
She's a little dumbfounded by you, mostly the fact that you're still alive. Just speechless. She looks back at Fernaleus.
He just walks over to her and kind of kneels down and takes her hand and kisses the back of her palm and says, "I think we'll be okay."
I was worried about him. I've not heard of. Listen, I have heard all kinds of tales of what happens when one has Congress with the Banshee, and I've heard horrible things. I just wanted to make sure that my friend here didn't suffer some of the more drastic ones I've heard of. Just I've heard tales. I don't know what the actual truth of the tales are. But apparently, he feels better.
She's in all of her cycles, ancient for a mortal woman, but obviously in comparison to Fernaleus, she's still obviously a kid. But her knowledge of folklore, this goes against everything that she's been taught. And she just is everything attached. She puts her hands on your face.
And he drops Trow in front of her and he lifts up. It's fine. There's no irritation that might be seen in some women who frequent other men's. Well, you get my meaning.
He just looks over at Fernaleus and make sure he doesn't have the pox in a few days. And make sure he does not touch any other of the village women. You have no idea what horrible things the banshees could be having.
That is true.
And she just kind of like puts her hand on Tane's head and just be careful. And she goes about her day. And she leaves you there.
I don't intend to make a habit of this. I could only swear my allegiance to one of the divine, and I don't think I could handle that of Malgora.
If that banshee goes back and tells her sisters, though, you may find yourself inundated with suitors.
Right.
I'm just thinking.
That's what I have you for, friend.
Well, that is
and
true.
Thorn.
If they're anything like my relatives of the other Umbriads, yes, this word will get around, and you'll be very popular where I'm from, Tane.
Never been with the bank before. Might be fun.
I thought you would be amenable to that. And you guys also are starting to notice that his good nature is back, and he's just
Tane's
happy.
A lot more jovial now. He's like, yeah. That's what happens when you're keyed up on a glacier and no one wants to look at you.
Fern reaches out and grabs Tane's shoulder in that brotherly manner and says, "Good to have you back, brother." So,
thank you. He gets to work and spends the next 10 or 15 minutes cleaning up the mud off of his gear so that he looks presentable. And starts snacking on maybe some veggies or something while he's doing it.
That reminds me, Fern's going to make breakfast. Bit of leftover stew and put it to the things there. So no one's dying because I didn't roll double ones.
You didn't poison anyone, thank God.
It's a 16, so.
There you go. There you go.
Did a decent breakfast then. As we're eating, he says, I think we might want to look and see what kind of defenses they've erected overnight. Surprised they didn't find you out there, Tane. I heard them often on the toss in my sleep. I would hear them putting up more basic fences, I guess they would be doing here. I don't think I should do it anytime.
They've actually, despite the short period of time, they've actually put up a relatively permanent palisade. I mean, it can be moved if you've got a lot of guys. They've got it up in sections. They can move it, but they're making it a permanent addition to the village by digging pits and then putting the posts into it.
It's ingenious. He'll walk up to what they're doing that and offer to pitch in to help, I guess.
They will be at this for the next day, and then the palisade of the village will be complete. They just have to spike the wall, and you'll be finished.
All right, I guess wherever he's needed, he'll put in, because obviously if we have an armed force coming this way, we need to have this village defended. And that's just taking off into the wind wouldn't do us any good.
Mm-hmm. So are we going to have another day's worth of downtime for the party, or what do you guys want to do?
Well, part of what I'm actually looking to do is I'm working beside these guys. I'm going to be asking them about the woods, what they know of the place, what kind of creatures may live there, and also if they met that one hunter that had come to the area and that they believe may have slain the mate of the Leshan.
The locals don't give you much more information outside the fact that the mated pair of Leshan that were in the forest were revered as local deities. Which you find it a little, maybe it's a little odd, maybe it's certainly different, but most rural communities worship the silent monolith as an agriculture and nature deity. This village in particular chose the Leshan over the silent monolith. They would normally have a henge, just one stone, the singing stone for the monolith, but in the center of the village here, there's actually a Leshan totem.
Okay. Once we get to a certain point, Fernandez will probably sit down and actually sketch that totem and make some notes if he has a little bit of downtime, maybe during they stop for lunch or whatever.
Okay. I suppose, yeah, be about it. What's the rest of the party doing?
Amris is, he's going to see what he can do to help, but he's kind of assuming having one arm in the sling, he's not going to be of too much help. So I do know one thing he is going to try to do is work on range of motion, basically physical therapy with his arm. Other than that, he's also going to be trying to work with his daggers, as well as still trying to figure out that alternative to playing his lute. So from a progressive point of view, he's probably not going to be much help to the village, but he's probably going to try to do some self-help.
I will say I actually had to do a little bit of research regarding this. As the arrow landed in your shoulder, all right. So your shoulder would be all but disabled, but anything from like the elbow down, you've got a pretty weak range of motion there. I mean, the hand obviously will feel numb, but until you actually get all of that feeling back and the shoulder heals enough, I mean, you can still play. You can pluck of. You're not going to be playing nearly as say like quickly. Like your tempo is going to be way off. But I mean, you can still pluck a very melancholy, slow tune with your right hand. You're gonna be hurting. A lot of breaks.
I
No
would imagine
concert hall
that
for you for a while.
Kane is going to check on it and show him some exercises to do it, and encourages him to play and do regular activity, not as vigorously as he normally would, but to keep the motion in place for his muscles and his skeletal structure.
Almost knows some power ballads anyway. It's okay. He can always slow it down a little bit.
Perfect. Be nice to hear a tune.
So the three of you will advance the clock a day. A dispatcher comes in on, say, the morning of the second day. This is actually a mortal dispatcher now. Comes to you, giving you a letter from Tenelok saying that they have pushed the enemy back to the edge of their lands. And by their lands, as in Ophira's territory, not your guys' territory. She's now back on her side of the fence. Still no sign of Farad anywhere. The bastard coward is likely hiding somewhere in a ditch, probably putting his unholy member in some filthy rag woman in a muddy ditch. Lekra damn him. Signed, Tenelok. One of the babushkas gives the messenger a day's worth of rations as well as a day's worth of rest. He is actually sleeping in the gathering hall. It's not an inn. This is too primitive to be considered an inn. There's a larger tent that's got a lot of room for beds and a place to eat for the whole village. That's where he's sleeping right now.
Basically, the longhouse, right?
Yeah, it is.
In that case, once Fernlaeus has gotten enough of a work in to sort of give the people the idea that he is definitely willing to work, he'll excuse himself to go, of course, speak with this messenger. And he'll ask him, "Have you heard word by chance on the road of a lone hunter?" And give him a brief description of, if he's seen that person at any of the places he's seen, or had he heard word of them.
There is a wayward slayer that has now been reported to be in the territory of Enweir, near the village of the Castleview Harrow, which I will tell you specifically, Keith.
Mm-hmm.
Enweir is a name distantly familiar to you,
Okay.
but you don't quite know where you've heard of it. You swear
Okay.
on your life that it is that it's you've heard the name.
Okay. He'll take the information and thank him, and He'll sort of absolutely go over and sit down on a bench, pull out his book, his journal, and write that down. INWAER. And the name is Castleview Harrow.
Hollow.
Oh,
I misspoke earlier. It's Hollow.
all right. Okay. And he'll write that down just for a moment, and once he does that, he'll look at the word for a bit, close the book, and then go and find where Tane and Thorn are working on Thorn's shoulder.
Probably out front in your kind of like your front yard area.
So he'll walk up to them. He'll just say, "Have either of you heard of Inweir or Castleview Hollow? Has that struck a bell in your travels, and y'all? I've heard it somewhere."
No.
Well, the messenger. By the way, the messenger brought word that the Opera's forces have been pushed back to the borders again, so we don't have to worry about an invasion here. But I did hear word that the Slayer apparently most recently has been seen in a place called Castleview Hollow in Inweir. And so the name just sounded familiar. Can't place it though.
I don't know. Not you, Thorn.
Yeah, he's going to sit there a second. He'll kind of like try to rack his brain. No, that's one I haven't heard yet.
I think that may be our next stop, possibly. We'll have to have a conversation with the high woman of the village and see if she knows how far this is and if we might be able to provisions to that. But until then, though, I think we need to this eve at dusk, because I believe that's the proper time to do it. We might want to see if we can't. He breathes in and sort of breathes out because he knows what he's about to say is not necessarily like the safest thing to do. We might want to make contact with the Unseelie if they are here, or at least attempt it. I don't want to leave this place and then we hear word on the road that this place is overrun by banshees looking for a mate and slew all the men here.
Or
what are you trying to say? I mean, I get the impression like I'm some two-bit whore in your story.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah.
That's really unfair of a friend. And he looks over at Amorous and winks at him, and he's like, you bring us out on this crazy adventure. I just got the fuck of my life, and now you're giving me shit for it. I see how it is. You're jealous of me and Thorn because we get more ass than you do.
Ferdinand sort of shrinks down into his hood, and at that, he sort of lowers his head so that the hood covers his face for a moment. He says, I'm sorry, Tane. I didn't mean to insult your manhood in any way.
And that's when he just bursts out laughing from the straight face as he was just looking so serious.
As he looks up, you see a smile on his face as he says, for as we all know, your manhood could defend its own honor if it chose.
Now, we don't need to spread that around, okay? I'm already on high alert.
I think you've spread it around enough, my
grandmother.
friend. I'm sure she's telling all of the other young ladies in town and many of the older ones as well.
I would imagine that we were sitting there, and he was working on exercising and kind of plinking, and I was also
you're
working
out
on
in
that
front
ox.
yard, so
I'd probably walk the ox over there if that's cool.
Oh yeah, sure.
Working
He needs his
on
exercise.
Well, and I also needed to keep working on his hoof.
Roll me a husbandry. Fun fact: apothecary is for attending people. Husbandry is for tending animals.
Nice.
Perfect.
Vet versus doctor, basically.
Yeah, that. Yeah, thanks, Mike. I'm a doctor. Not that kind of doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I got a total of a 20.
Yeah. So in this case, he's got quite a bit of vitality damage, and he has, with your ministrations, actually recovered 1 grade of exhaustion. That is now 2 grades of exhaustion as opposed to 3. You will add your, obviously it's going to be 1 vitality per day plus your spirit modifier per day for his healing. That's how that works. And that goes for all animals mechanically. So keep in mind, keep a note of that.
Speaking of animals, what
actually,
about Thorn?
Yeah, right. No, he
Does he still need to heal some?
So no, Animal here is no, he's pretty pretty
I'm just
pretty
wondering if I needed to do an apothecary on him again, or is he healing
no,
nicely?
he should be full by now, if not like 1 point down, I think, right? It's been 2 days, Thorn. You took kind
Yeah,
of
I think I'm actually back to full. Yeah.
okay, cool. I know your vitality pool's not huge, but okay. Actually, the muskox, as it is actually a larger beast, actually recovers 2 vitality per day plus your spirit. So your spirit, I think, is 3, so that's 5 per day.
My spirit is gets a +1 bonus.
Oh, excuse me. Then it's 3 per day. So he'll be good in full in about 3.5 days.
All right, but he's starting to look a lot better.
Much. You found this poor beast in a horrible way. If I can be the left side of Fernaleus's brain, his academic mind, in the court room of Adra, you saw a handful of banners that adorned the walls. You notice that her banner and her territory is actually scarlet red, which has a rune in the center of it in black, which is it matches the rune on your guys' anklets. Now, you noticed that Ophira, her sigil is actually blue, and Weir is actually a goldenrod. All of the runes are different, and you would assume that people who reside in certain villages have certain runes attached to them that claim them as the overlords. So you make that logical leap of, well, there's a red banner here in Lewin, so the gold banner.
The gold banner would be in Weir then. Okay.
Right. Also, the color goldenrod also is hauntingly familiar to you, and you cannot place it.
But that rune.
That rune, no.
Okay.
But I will say you have an inkling that your mom may have mentioned the color before.
He's thinking along the lines that he definitely wants to go to this Inweir at some point. He doesn't have a name to go ask about, but with the connection to his mother, maybe that's where she had been at some point. Maybe she had been here at some point. Maybe that's where I was conceived, if you will.
Perhaps. How do you wish to proceed? As it is currently mid-morning, or what passes for mid-morning in the Gloomwillow cycle currently.
Well, gentlemen, do you feel comfortable enough to venture out to the edge of the forest and let's see what we can see there?
Sure, I'd be up for a little adventure.
No time like the present.
nothing else, we can scout the area to see if there's any places where brigands and such might hide or waylay people on the road and such. Hopefully, we can see if there are any of these unseelie in the area and do what we need to do.
Brigands hiding in Alessian's wood. Ooh, that's bold.
Never know.
That's balls right there.
I'll make sure to let someone know that where we're going.
Okay,
And,
who do you tell?
They have someone
Probably
that
the
passes for.
babushkas.
Well, actually, I was thinking that's one that passes for like the captain of the guard, if there is such, or whoever is leading up the defense of the village. They're
what?
I know.
I'm muted. God damn it
Yes.
all. Anyway, so
Quit
no,
doing that.
I know, right? Shame on the overseer of the game. Now, there is a captain of the guard, or what passes for a captain of the guard here. You've not met him. You've heard of him. You've only been here for 2 days. Goes by the name of Pear. P-A-R, with the umlauts over the A. Now, you've heard rumor that he's a fair folk, and you've not seen any fair folk in all of Miserine aside from Thorn since you got here.
I will look for the other fair folk and let him know what we're doing.
It's a little difficult for you to find him because his horns are missing.
I've heard of this before.
When you do find him, he is obviously he's a Dawn Fairfolk, but as you know, Dawn Fairfolk, they're supposed to be quite golden in skin tone. This guy is bleached, not albino, but clearly he's not seen the sun in a long time.
Yeah.
And when he takes his hood off, his horns that would actually come in on his widow's peaks, they look as if, mind you, they've scarred and healed over, like they were tore out from the roots and then burned, so they'll never grow back.
So he has stars where his horns should grow from. Honestly, Fernlance will see it and sort of start just a bit, but then he'll try to recover his composure, and he'll say, "I'm told you're Pear."
I am he. He just kind of glares at you when you notice that he's been decrested, if you will.
Okay. Yeah, Fern just sort of nods. He says, myself and my 2 companions are going to go out and we're going to scout the perimeter into the forest. We'll try not to cause any undue stress on the local deity is what you would call them, I guess.
Yeah, the mortals here worship the Leshen.
Yes,
Well,
but
did.
they may still. Yeah, you never know. Mortals are weird that way.
Doubtful.
But we're going to go look at and see if there's any places where brigands might be hiding or other things that might threaten the village. So,
I thought you did a number on their lot already.
the brigands, yes, but there may be more than that. You never know.
Well, thieves have long memories, so be careful.
I will. We have, he sort of patches his weapon and says, we have something for those who have long memories that may have been associated with those brigands. Don't worry. Do you want the heads if we do happen to go find some of these guys? Something for the spikes out front.
He just kind of, he doesn't say anything. He just nods. Just kind of like the hallmark flash of savagery that comes into most fair folk kind of comes into his eyes. He gets a little excited, but the fact you notice that the fact that he's been living amongst mortals for too long, and it breaks your heart a little bit. Something in the Fey side of you, it breaks your heart. He's gone civilized.
Okay. We'll just sort of nod there, So I'll bring you back some heads to decorate those pikes if there are already brigands out there. Don't worry.
There's another fair folk actually walks up. Oh my God! There's 3 in the small area. It's smothering all of Misery.
Mm-hmm.
And this second one actually looks like a mirror image of Pear. Like they're identical twins.
Oh wow, that's rare.
You might call them a pair.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay.
You're not there, are you? Are you?
Yeah. I was just on our way out. Look this guy up. So yeah, he'll probably be there.
So Pear's identical twin. He's actually has his left eye put out in a horribly gruesome way. It's just a black hole with a horrible black cut from his hairline to his jaw, and also his horns have been pulled out at the roots and seared. So these poor, wretched things have been cursed to look like mortals.
So I'll nod to the other one. Is his name Par by chance? Is it Par and Par?
No.
His name is like Parrot.
Oh.
Okay, I'm done.
I thought his name
Done with the stupid
actually.
jokes. So you said his name is Pilar?
Yeah, Pilar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pear and
Pilar. Okay. Yeah, I will acknowledge this other fellow there.
Has Thorn said anything or made himself known this entire time, or he's still standing in back?
He's up there with them, but he's letting Fern do most of the talking right now.
Okay. This is the first specimens of your kin that you've seen in how many dozens of cycles have you been abroad? Is it close to a century?
275 cycles.
Is it close to a century by now?
Getting there. I think he left when he was 200 cycles, so about 75 cycles he's been abroad.
That's long enough. You haven't seen any of your kind in a long time.
Yeah, right.
Keep in mind the ones who have this horrible thing done to them are people who are disgraced and considered wretched and filthy. They normally do this to people who have either betrayed their own kind or are bandits in some form or fashion. It's the highest dishonor to be cursed to be mortal and banished from their homeland.
So is this normally a justified, you would have went to court found guilty sort of thing, and this is your punishment, or is this just you wronged someone and the highest official said, be gone with you, we're going to curse you with this?
Well, I don't think you've watched the first episode of Reaper King, but to put it into perspective for you, Shihan had his horns removed,
yes,
but they didn't sear them shut. His actually could grow back after a century, or actually yours, Shihan's actually grew back supernaturally.
Yes.
These two poor bastards, their horns will never grow back.
Right, because they were seared.
Yep.
Generally, that level of mark is for murderers or those who were the kinslayers, or those who led their kin into a situation that caused them to die. So it's truly they're from what I've put into the Dawn Fairfolk, you might not even actually acknowledge them as being Fairfolk anymore.
And that is your right.
They've lost that right.
So.
Yeah.
Do I notice that, like the seared off portion, before they actually notice I'm there? Because if so, I'm going to put my hood up.
Well, you're not going to be able to cover up your horns. Your hood comes up to about the base behind them. It covers your head, and it's part of your face, but your horns will actually.
Okay.
That's the one thing about fair folk that fair folk can't cover up their horns.
Okay.
Would I know much about the fair folk? Like, would I understand what this means to them? You see what I'm saying? I'm not dumb. I'm an academic, but also it's a culture I'm not be familiar with that.
Your knowledge of the fair folk is it's restricted to the dusk fair folk, which they're a completely separate culture. For you specifically being a Geet, we'll say Thorn's probably the only dawn fair folk that you've ever met, aside from obviously now these two. These two are, well, the three of you are obviously very, very far from home.
So I step forward and I say, that must have hurt. Was this a great battle? I'm confused.
Peller actually looks up at you, and before he answers, he actually looks back at Thorn because she's right there. It's kind of hard to hide your crest, and he takes a long, hard look at Thorn, and so much information is passed telepathically between the two of you, almost on like a cultural level. And he doesn't look at Tane, but he answers, "No, it wasn't a great battle.
I'm sorry.
It was a mistake."
It's terrible. Well, I think that the two of you have made a great accommodation for this village, and I think that they have made the right choice. You found home. Home is not always where we start.
The twins just kind of look at each other like, is this guy fucking preaching to us? Kind of. They're not saying anything, but that's the look they're giving each other. And Pear just he says,
I just kind of smile and I look at him and I just say, remember, writing's never easy. You just get better.
Hang on here.
Can't get all sorts of philosophical up in this.
Right? Pear just
I'm preaching here. Come on.
Oh, I know you're preaching. I thoroughly appreciate it. It's fantastic. He actually says in Feywise that Pear goes, he's a shaman of the horse god. Just ignore him. And Peller's like, oh, all right. But he looks back at Thorn and says, he still hasn't switched out of Feywise. And he goes, I have something for you to see. Deadpan, serious, just, no. It's the overly direct Sealy to Sealy interaction there.
Thor's just going to kind of just raise an eyebrow and then just kind of just give a nod. But he actually will look at the couple when they mentioned about Tane, though. And in Feywise, he'll look at them and it'll be like, he's quirky, but you get used to it after a while.
Between the three of you share this kind of Hey, Fernaleus speaks Feywise, doesn't he? I know he speaks at least okay, no, excuse me. No, he speaks Shadow Feywise, so he gets about a third of the what's.
Oh no, he actually speaks actual Feywise as well.
Oh, he speaks both.
Yeah, I went ahead and made sure he actually spoke both.
Well done.
So,
do you
speak
Fire
Feywise? He doesn't advertise
that.
No.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't have that one. He speaks Shadow Feywise, Edmonton, and Yetite.
There you go. Okay. But so like the twins, they bring the troop of you, the 5 of you, outside the village, and you walk for a good like 15 minutes. And you get to the point where like, where the fuck is these two taking us? And you come out to like a bog, like a small bog. And you smell it before you see it, obviously. And Peller goes, he kind of like gets down in the water. It's like calf deep. And he points down there. You actually see a grave marker.
In the water?
Yep. It's sticking out of the water.
Okay. Thorn will go up next to him and kneel down and look at the grave marker.
You're gonna be kind of sinking into the mud there, but it's
That's okay.
it's transcribed with the initials, the initials, the runes for JB. He's still pointing to it, and you guys kind of like have a little bit of a moment out there in the water, kind of like out there in the tules. You feel something kind of brush up against your leg like a bog fish.
While this is going on, Fernlaeus is going to keep an eye out around us to make sure we're not being led into a trap. He doesn't really trust these two that much because...
As you should not.
Yeah.
Per, however, is standing next to you, and he goes, there's another fair folk that looked very similar to that one. He died recently.
Fernlaeus sort of nods and looks over at the fellow. It's always sad when one of the long-lived die tragically.
There's no grove. And he's kind of, Paris, he kind of like raises his voice like a little bit higher so like a lot of you can actually hear. And you guys have privacy out here. You're well out of earshot and kind of eye shot from the village. There's no grove where our kind can go and become trees. So the locals put them in the bog and return them to. It's just a long moment, and he's got this awkward look on his face when he returned them to the bog. Yeah.
Thorn's he's gonna look at this marker, and he's gonna look at it for a good long while. Fern and Tane have been around Thorin long enough to know when the gears are starting to click into place. Like he's putting together something that's been gone for far too long. And he's looking at it, and he goes to put I'm assuming it's because if he can put his hand on it.
Actually muted again. Shit. It's actually like 8 feet out there, straight out in the water, and you kind of feel like where you're standing and you're kind of like starting to sink into the silt. Like if you walked out there, you're talking like knee, hip, waist, chest deep water. Like it starts to it falls off quick, depth wise. You're standing at a safe distance.
Amherst is actually going to slowly walk out there.
Okay.
Not so much with purpose, and I'm sure the other two Fae are just going to notice. Look, it's almost like he's stuck in his 80s.
Oh yeah.
Like he's stuck almost in. I can't think of how to describe it. It's like when you have that memory at the edge and you're trying to reach for it, but it's just out of reach. So you go deeper trying to find it.
Yep. I get you.
that's kind of what he's stuck at right now. So he will actually keep walking out until either it gets too deep for him to continue, or he can actually put his hand on the letters, or on the runes rather.
You can get out to the stone. You kind of trip a little bit, so your chin and your lips kind of go down into the water, and you put your hands on the stone, and it's actually a pillar that goes down into the water. And you find like you're like standing on like a submerged log down there, so you're actually like chest deep. You can comfortably, with your head above the surface of the water, have your hands on the stone.
Is there any other markings other than just the runes for the initials?
There is a time of death or a date of death there. There's no birth, because you normally don't record that. Your kind is so long lived, it's usually forgotten.
Right. Thorn will put his hands on it, and he'll actually like trace the runes as if he's like tracing the letters. And he goes completely quiet, but you can just see him break just a little bit. Like, it was one thing to see him break when his shoulder got shot and he realized he wasn't going to have music. That was a mourning of a whole different type. You saw him break a little bit when the Leshen cried out and he mourned what he had lost. This was a break of, it was forgotten, but now it was found again, just to be lost again. And he doesn't say a word. He doesn't move after putting his hand on the runes. But the other four looking at him can just tell that something inside him has just cracked a little bit more. And he'll probably actually stay out there for a good couple of minutes, like 5 minutes. Doesn't care that he's, soaked to the bone in this bog water and mud. Doesn't care what brushes up against him. He is, for all intents and purposes, for the next 5 minutes, a complete statue.
Pear, standing next to Fern, says something in the Sealy tongue to his twin. His twin like half turns away and he nods, and he passes that on to Thorn, and I'll actually type that out for you here. For the rest of us, you actually do not speak the tongue of the Sealy. It actually comes out like a halfway between a purr and a kind of like a babbling brook. The rolled R's and soft consonants there.
So Tane actually picks up on what's happening, even though Fern is hurriedly trying to decipher and stuff what they're saying, what he can. He picks up on what's going on, and he actually just begins, he's watching what's happening, and he puts two and two together, and what little he does know is that because they are forest folk, he thinks that the least that he could do is part the clouds and give a ray of sunshine to shine down upon this grave. And so he does so. He begins a ritual at the earth and begins drawing the symbol of Agun into the soil, and then begins looking up to the sky and doing some chants, and then he draws some ruins in the mud and draws it up to the sky, and then brings this symbol down. And as he's doing so, he's like asking Agun to give the gift of sunlight to this grave in this forsaken land. He's going to spend a ritual point to do that.
Beautifully done. Fantastic.
Fern will step over just as this happens, sort of step over just almost reflexively into the shade of a bowl of a tree as this light comes probably streaming from the horizon. Almost like a ray of sunshine at dawn.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll just sort of step over,
get out of the way.
Yeah. Doesn't really like that feel on his skin. He'll see his friend there highlighted in the water, just his shoulders and head sticking up out of there with this stone beyond, with him tracing that. And he will actually, he's going to break into a song.
There you go.
He's decently singing it. I think it's a 15.
There you go.
It's an old lamentation for a love lost. So, in Feywise.
Of course.
And then after the first verse, for Tane's benefit, he'll actually sing the same song in Ebon tongue. It's the same verse. He'll just do a verse of it. But it's a song about it had been written down from some long forgotten bard and passed down over the centuries about apparently something a bearded folk who had fallen to some kind of horrible demise, and the hopes that he would meet his love once again on the other side. So
there's a few moments of silence as you're singing and your chants and sutras are subsiding. Somewhere off in the bog, a trout jumps. You have a nice calming ripple of the water on the tall grass, the water grass and the tules and the cattails.
Fernlaeus is going to scan that look around at that. See if there's anything out there watching. So, that's a 12 on an awareness.
Now, aside from the frogs, the mosquitoes, the fish, nah, you're out there by yourselves. It means there's a few birds chirping distantly, but your immediate area is very somber, very quiet.
It'll actually be the. Go ahead, Fern.
Oh, I'm just saying. I was going to say he would just, as his song ends, would just bow his head.
It's actually the ripple that will shake him free from his trance, so to speak. As it bounces off, it'll bounce off the stone, bounce off against his body, and he'll blink a few times, and then he'll just touch the stone again, and he'll just give a farewell, basically to the stone, basically to his kin, and the only words that really anyone would hear, well, at least people who can speak Feywise, would be, I'll see you again when the great Lord takes us all. We'll meet again.
There's kind of a splash behind you as one of your kin kind of like gets down deeper into the water, kind of leans out there, hand out.
Amherst would turn, partially from being done with the stone and partially hearing this, and he'll take the arm and he'll start walking back up. His face is completely tear stained. Whatever tears were there are dry, but you can tell he's got the lines down his face where they fell pretty freely. And he looks at the brothers again after they had spoken to him. And I'm actually going to type out what he said back to them. But he just says those words, and then he simply gets out of the bog, gets back on, hard, solid land. And unless someone actually speaks to him, he's just silent once again.
King doesn't speak to him, but he actually, being on the shore there, he approaches him and just claps him on the shoulder and gives him a brotherly squeeze, and then just walks, kind of letting him know if you need to talk, whatever.
As he approaches Fern, staying there in the shadow of the tree bowl with his head bowed, we'll just say from under his hood, "Did you know them in Feywise?"
Brother, but not in a direct way.
Pear will reply to you. The Sealy tongue.
And then Fernlace will say, "No, folk. Then we should all shed a tear for brothers."
As Pear makes that last sentence, that last moment to him, Thorndyke's going to kind of look back at him, and you're going to see just a tiny bit of a smirk show up for a split second. It's going to be, all the stories we heard of why, and he just kind of looks at where the horns are supposed to be. Concerning that, I guess are not as bad as we were made to be told. We'll have to catch up later.
He kind of just sheepishly just looks at the mud and doesn't say anything. And Peller speaks up. We don't. Well, obviously in Feywise, he's you kind of get the feeling that that's the only language that they speak, really. We don't see much of our kind here. Well, either vampires don't think we taste good or do not like our people. But we're the only two. He points to Thorn. 3 now that we know. Just take care of yourselves. And they both, really weird, really cagey and awkward. They walk off. They just fucking leave you.
It was getting too touchy-feely, family lovey for them.
Yeah, they're very kind of, yeah. You can assume the reason why the shit that's been done to them. They're just kind of very arm's length about people.
With what I grew up knowing and mother teaching me and whatnot, would I have a chance to know why vampires don't care for fair folk blood?
You can roll for it, sure.
It's gonna be a 15.
No, I mean, it's a thing, but you specifically don't know exactly.
I just know they don't care for fair folk blood, just not why. Okay.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. I'll just say they don't care for your blood.
You're standing out there, just off of the country road that you'd come in on. Across the road, maybe about 1/8 of a mile that way is the woodland.
Okay. Without saying anything about anything, I'll sort of turn, mutter a little prayer to Evis to record the passing of this one so that he's not forgotten. And then start walking down the road toward the woodland.
Uh,
It's
Okay.
almost as if Thorn, you're here to take a place, to fill someone's shoes.
Mhm. Time will tell him that one, I suppose. And he'll actually kind of shake his head as if he's like clearing the fog from it. And actually, he just starts walking toward the woodland.
All right. Yeah, Tane gets it. He just keeps walking.
once you get to the road, as luck would have it, you actually link up with with a different outrider. The vampire that you'd spoke to the night before yesterday. He actually has his. It's because it's broad daylight right now. He has his hood very very low on him, and you recognize the red sigil on his overcoat. Um, and yeah, Keith. What what he does, he greets you warmly enough, but clearly, even for a vampire, he's been in the saddle, and he's quite tired running messages all over this green earth. Gives you a message, a letter from Adra saying that she is visiting her sister in the house of Enweir in the neighboring fiefdom. Should you wish to join her when your task is finished, she has more for you there.
Okay. Fern looks at it, and he looks to Thorn. He says, "May I have your back for a moment, sir?"
Thorn will nod, and he'll kind of turn.
Okay. He'll reach into his pouch, pull out one of his quills, a bit of ink, take the letter, flip it over to its backside, and just very quick, hastily write, "We will see you there soon." And sends that note back with the writer.
Oh, is that the only reply?
Yeah, for the moment.
Okay.
Just because of the way he's thinking right now, the way he's sort of in the moment, he's not thinking much about what he should say. So he just very quickly just scribbles that. So.
You hand the scroll back to the outrider, and he just kind of leans out of the saddle, and you kind of catch the crimson eye glint, his heavily gauntleted hands covering his vampire skin. He takes the scroll from you. He just kind of mutters, "Ugh." How's it been since last we saw each other? 2 grades of exhaustion on this vampire.
I look at the fellow, and I say, "It's been enlightening."
Only in the past 2 days? Oh, I see. Lucky you 3.
Well, we have found that there are banshees in these woods.
Of course there are. They've always been here.
And it is possible to survive a night with one, apparently. And he come out no worse the wear, I guess you could say. They're the legend
Is that so?
Well, yes.
Oh. I don't know why you'd want to sleep with one. They're about as filthy as a muddy ditch.
That sounds quite similar to what I heard about a certain. He sort of breathes in deeply and almost
supposedly you
out
can
the
have.
rod.
It's kind of a crazy notion. Fern's been drinking and has this idea that you can have sexual congress with these beasts, but but it has been enlightening, to say the least. We have learned a lot of the culture, I'm going to try to bypass and push past that.
Mhm.
What do you want for a role, if anything?
You don't have to roll. It's fine.
Okay.
We're currently looking to see if the local Fae are at least amicable to not harming the mortals here in the time being. No reason to ask for a fight when none's needed.
Well, I can tell you that the local people, at least the other two villages, appease the Fae nearest them in the ways that they can to keep the Fae out of their business, fly in the ointment, if you will.
Same here, but being the fact that the Leshen has lost its mate, it may be a bit more difficult here than in other places.
Yes. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
You need to get some rest soon. You look terrible.
These letters have to be delivered.
That they do.
And
Yes.
he wheels his horse around in the opposite direction, and as he's about ready to gallop down the road, is there anything else that I should be delivering to Lady Adra, or possibly to Tenelok, because that is my second stop?
Tell them the trail has grown cold here for the Slayer. We shall be moving our efforts soon to Enweir. And also give Lady Adra our regards.
Oh, I will. And Half-Breed, you've been quite popular amongst the gossips. He kind of kicks his steed and he gallops off.
And after he rides off a little ways, I look to Fern and I say, yeah, maybe they will be interested in your manhood. He looks over Thorn.
And with that, we'll take ourselves a 8-minute break.
That'd be
Here.
plenty. Yeah, 5
5 minutes. All right, let's have a 5-er. We'll be back.
Back shortly. Oop, wrong one. There we go.
I'll see if I get my webcam. Schwack. There we are. All right.
Schmackety schmackety.
Right. That's right. I really don't have much in the way of campaign art right now, so we're gonna be just off to
Using
the
our
side.
imaginations.
Right? Imagination. All right, so that vampire courier, scout, mailman, whatever the hell you want to call him, he fucks off. Leaves you out on a muddy road in the middle of a countryside ruled over by fucking vampires. Vampires, of all
Yes.
things.
Well, it could
What's
be worse.
up with that?
It could be worse.
It could be a hell of a lot worse. The floor is
Yeah.
yours, gentlemen.
So, yeah, Fern will start heading toward the wood, the little copse of woods there to. He'll be looking to see if there's I know that there's a shrine of a totem in the middle of the village.
There is.
I am looking to see if there's one similar to that at the edge of the woodlands.
There is. It is distinctly feminine looking, and seems to have lost its luster, its
life.
Its life. Yes, its life. If a totem can become disheveled, then yes, absolutely.
So I'll go up and look around. I'm not going to touch anything. I'm not going to disturb anything. I feel that would be a desecration in a way. It's almost as if we went from one grave to another at this point.
Yep.
But Fern will go up and start sort of looking around the ground around this thing to see if there's any
tracks. Yes.
Tracks. Any. So things that have been here recently.
It likes to rain pretty off and on here in the rainforest, so yeah, the tracks look quite fresh.
Okay, I'll call Tane over, but I'll do a preliminary wild lore real quick for myself. That's a 10 for me. I'm like, Tane, take a look at this. No, sorry.
Damn it, cat.
That is 2 raises.
Oh shit.
So a total of a 22.
Oh yeah. You've seen Leshen tracks. This is the first time you've seen them since you were a boy, however. But there's a definitely a Leshen has been here to possibly pay respects. Rather large, heavy beast, kind of milled around this area.
And I get down and I kind of trace the area, and then I show Fern, and then you see how the toes, they there's only 4 of them, right? But the way that the paw size is what we're looking at. He's just kind of illustrating what the Leshen.
He'll pay attention to that and all the things that Tane is showing him as far as the tracks go, and he'll say that.
Thorn, make me a danger sense quick. Son of a bitch.
Wrong button.
Yep, right.
All right. Give me a second here.
Danger sense. Best skill in the entire game. Oh.
15.
15? Yeah, you absolutely do feel like you're being watched.
Oh, that's always fun.
Yep.
Any particular direction, or just kind of an all-around, oh fuck type feeling?
Without like giving it away, it's like something is amongst you. You're feeling watched. It's very close by, albeit intangible or invisible. It's like a ghost of some kind.
Fern, Tane, I
Yes.
can't see all the weird stuff you guys can, but I think there's something else here.
Okay. Fern will look up and take a look around using his occult insight to see if there's anything that's giving him a reason to fear.
Me too.
No. So that's a 21 for me. I rolled dice. Oh my god.
Tane? Yeah, that's not the first time you rolled dice this session, huh?
19.
No. Oh. 19? Yeah, no, there's oh, yeah, there you go. Goddamn cat. Now, you both look up into the forest. You see something gaunt, tall, shadowy, way off in the trees, with a pair of red eyes looking at you. You kind of blink, you kind of rub your eyes like, what the hell is that over there? And the thing is gone.
Fern will call out in Shadow Feywise, "We mean you no harm."
There is no reply.
Okay. Worth a try, he says in Lebanese. But,
So this is a totem to the side of the death of, we would imagine, the partner.
Not the site of the death. No.
this is
Okay.
this is probably its the worship point for the female, I'm assuming, whereas the males was in the village, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's a shrine to something that's dead now.
And seeing how Leshens aren't limbed the same way we are with fingers and such, cleaning the
More or less
totem.
a branch of a tree, really. It's a tree spirit. Let me see if I can. No. I won't surprise. I won't spoil the surprise.
What would it be shaped like?
Vaguely humanoid, very tall, but tree-like, like a combination of multiple plants. Almost very somewhere distinctly like Wicker Man and Scarecrow and Oak Tree all at the same time.
That's the Leshen, right?
Yep.
What about the totem?
The totem is a log that has runes carved into it. It's got a deer skull on the top. It's got eagle feathers, grouse, pheasant feathers hanging from like strings on it. It looks like kind of like a dummy version of a lesser Leshen. It's about 4 feet tall.
Can we read anything on the runes, or too dirty right now?
That is in a language that you do not understand. But clearly they are indeed letters.
Any chance that I recognize it, or any
None of you are going to
closeness
be
to
able
my...
to get this. No.
Okay.
You do understand
Customarily.
letters, but not your letters.
Okay. customarily, is there something that can be done as a friendship or a kindness to something like cleaning the area or something, or is it better to look?
Natural.
Yeah.
Rustic.
I'm gonna actually make a lore test for me.
Are we talking
Just
shadow
straight
lore or just
no,
lore?
it is
Okay.
not a being in the darkness.
Okay.
Well, that's an opinion, I should say. Whether or not Leshen is an evil being or not. They are mean, I will tell you that much.
18.
20.
20? Yourself and Thorn know that it may be respectful to clean the area of what would be debris, as this could be possibly a worship place for it. But Fern, on the other hand, thinks it may be more prudent to remain rustic.
I'm going to go with my gut on this one, considering I do have a little bit of back history with Leshens. And I'm going to ask, would you give me a hand straightening? I think it would be acceptable, at least appreciated, from my experience.
Okay. We'll start clearing away like the fallen limbs and such.
And do it slowly. Don't make a big production about it, because we want to show that we're not being hostile. So we begin reverently clearing the debris, if you will. Destrier.
Fern will move a few little twigs and branches and such, but eventually his scholar just comes out and he stops and pulls out his book, opens it up, and begins sketching this totem on the opposite page across from the male totem that he sketched earlier.
There you go. Okay. There is a quiet reverence in this area, albeit very, very weak. Once you get this place cleared away. Cleared up, not cleared away, excuse me.
Well, it's not our place to worship at the altar, but we've done a kindness which might allow Fern to have words with this creature.
You try. He'll go out to the edge of this thing, of the area that's cleared, sort of step into the woodlands just a little bit, and he'll call out once again, "We mean you no harm." We hunt the one who did this. The one who slew her.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That mournful call comes back a few moments later. That horribly tear-jerking, heartstring, snapping wail of agony rumbles through the forest. It's like, great, guys, you made it cry.
Fern sort of, at that, turns, walks back towards his friends and says, "We tried." But
what do Leshens eat normally?
Anything that they can get their hands on.
same thing as bears, in other words, right? Whatever they want.
Yeah, whatever it wants.
Okay. Okay. I guess we can try a different tack at some point, or I guess get up the idea of contacting this thing directly. Maybe the people back in the village maybe their prayers will bolster it. I don't know. I'm not sure what they'll be choosing to worship now. He's saying this out loud, by the way. He's actually using his mind, sort of letting it sort of flow out. He says, I think we're about done here. I think Inweir is our next place to go. I don't know why, but I feel drawn there.
As you guys attempt to get your things together and leave, you turn your backs on the forest. There's immediately a presence on the edge of the woodland there. Schwack! Oh my god. There's a Leshen with about a dozen children with it. Unsettling as hell.
That's not disturbing at all, no.
Nope. No. No, it is not.
Okay. Gotta make a roll for this real quick. Fernlaeus looks at this figure, as horrifying as it is,
Mm-hmm.
and looks at these children.
Which are probably even worse.
Yeah.
Sleep well tonight, gentlemen.
And as I said, he looks at these two things, and at this point, he sort of straightens his back, looks right at the Leshen, and says, "You're better than my father ever was. Guard them well."
Huh.
A bit of bitterness
Really?
comes out. A bit of bitterness comes out at that.
Huh.
And he didn't even mention mom because
Sorry, I'm not.
I know that's fine.
Oh.
And he just sort of looks at that. He looks in his mind. He's looking through this horror of this visage of this thing, and he's seeing a father with children have lost their mother, and the fact that the two of them were together there with children sort of hits him deep in his core. That even quote unquote monsters have better parents than he did. So.
Just to turn that knife in your guys' collective stomachs here. Advanced stages of corruption are, as we know, blackened fingertips, blackened streaks across the eyes, and inky black tears. All of these Leshens, in the children and the father there, have horribly, disturbingly dark, inky tear streaks down what would pass as a cheek. A couple of them still kind of tremble as if they're crying yet. Monsters.
Yeah, Fern will just look at them, and his eyes start to shift toward that red spectrum. That's what he shows whenever his passions are up, be they positive or negative. And he just sort of nods and turns and says to his companions, "We have someone to hunt." And if you guys happen to notice his face as he says that, his fangs are out.
Okay.
Almost as if subconsciously he can't control that. So. And he starts heading back toward the village. So slowly, not like, marching off, but sort of slowly.
What do the rest of you do?
I see this exchange, and I'm looking to Thorn, and he goes walking off, and I just look to Thorn, and as we're walking off, I'm kind of like doing the sidelong glances to make sure that they're letting us leave.
Yeah, they're watching you leave. Yeah, they're as unsettling as that cold, dark, eyeless stare from those black pits just watch you. Yeah, they're congratulations, gentlemen. You just had peaceful Congress with election, Warren.
Thorne would he'd look at all of them, have that like quick moment of fear, like, oh shit. But then he'd actually kind of calm down. And he'd look at the father. He won't say a word, but his eyes are still showing him seeing that damn marker back in the bog. And all he's going to do is nod once, give a bow, and then slowly turn and walk.
All right. And notice that now keep in mind, these are indeed monsters. Just like the picture here. It looks like they have clothes. Mossy and moldering clothes. But clothes that has a connotation of some sentient thought there. Clothing.
Thoughts in Fernless's head as he's walking away, and this is sort of the thought he's always had when it came to things being called monsters. There are those who have called him that since he was a child. There are those who knew what he was, that as he would walk by would instinctively push their children behind them for fear of what he might be or fear of what he might do. The stories of the vampires coming in the night and drinking blood and making people sick oftentimes caused him problems. He himself has never had before this trip, had never partaken of human blood, but that didn't stop accusations from flying from time to time. More than a few times he's been thrown out of a tavern or such. They had settled on at one point because someone feared him. So his idea of monster is a bit skewed. So seeing something like this that everyone around the area is fearing, that was one of the reasons what drove him to come out here and find this thing in the first place. He wanted to see for himself, was this truly a monster, or was it someone who was being called as such, someone like himself? And as he walks away, he thinks to himself, though its visage is somewhat horrible, he saw a bit of himself in them. So at this point, he is gripping the hilt of his sword. The knuckles are actually turning blue because of his skin being so white. They don't turn white, of course. And he has murder on the mind at this point. This Slayer apparently is just one who doesn't like other.
And something here specifically regarding Tane and his background with the spiritual. Agion is a deity associated with horses and sunlight. We know this. With those two aspects, she's also associated with quite a bit of the natural world. We know that the natural world has a balance to it. If you fuck something up, the whole system collapses. It's like you take an apex predator out of an ecosystem. What the hell happens? All the other animals go rampant. Now, if I can be the left side of Tane's brain for a moment, coming at it from a shaman's mindset, this Slayer took one of the two, not necessarily apex predators, but beings in the fabric of the natural world here, natural or unnatural, here in Mizarine, and has upset the balance. is something that is absolutely taboo, and depending on how fervent you are, that's punishable by death. Now, in regards to the silent monolith, that would constitute you or farmers going on crusade, literally crusade, to find said individual, cut their throat, and leave them in a field as fertilizer, because that's all you're worth to them at that point. You upset the balance, we're going to reset the balance. So now, that's a rivaling religion. Keep in mind, you may interpret this however you wish as a shaman of Agion. We continue. Gentlemen, you have the floor.
If you guys are actually listening to Fern as he's walking along, you can actually hear him muttering something under his breath. Language is probably unfamiliar to you. What it is it's actually sutras in the Yethite language to hopefully attempt to calm himself. It's the equivalent of, I guess you could say, doing multiplication tables to take your mind off of something. So,
So I would imagine that while you're muttering that, Tane is actually speaking. He's rubbing his fingers together like this, and he's actually got his horse hair fob in his hand, if you will. And he says it's the moss. If you look at the way the moss is, it integrates into the clothing, the fabric, right? And it helps, and it actually keeps it together longer. And it's a passed down, it's a right of these Leshens. They pass down the clothing of their loved ones. It's oft not shared, but it's interesting. It is truly a cotton type fabric, a sort of milled, but it's extremely old and only been kept together by strange moss. But I believe we have a gelding to do.
I believe we should find this slayer, slice the tendons of the backs of his legs, and leave him back there next to that totem. The children should be allowed to take vengeance for their mother. And then he stops and turns and he looks at his two friends, and his eyes are blazing red. And he said, "Why did he have to go for the woman? Why did he have to go for the mother?" And he's like piss and vinegar in his eyes as he says this. That is the act of a coward, to come in and slay someone's mother.
You are not wrong. Everyone has reasons for actions.
He steps back. He's pacing back and forth across the road. And he says, "If Farad were to bring me this man today, I may actually forgive his sorry ass." No, I wouldn't. As he said, "No, Farad's still going to die."
Yep. I was about to.
It pops out. Yeah, it pops out. It's just like he's a.
No,
as
it
if,
no.
It was a proclamation of passion, obviously. He sort of just does this very frantic pacing back and forth, and finally throws his hood back, looks up at the sky, and lets out a freaking banshee-like scream of just frustration and rage.
All of the banshees within a 20-mile radius are they're ready now.
Check.
The
Oh, double eights. I'm serious. Just saying. Yeah, that was the sexiest scream they'd ever heard in their life.
You're right. Yep.
Didn't actually matter.
The
But yeah, so
the oven has been preheated. They're queuing up right now.
So yeah, yes, exactly as Thorne says. Yes, so he does that scream, and it echoes across the way. And he just shakes his head. You know, usually you've seen Fern. He always seems to have a slight bit of detachment, almost as if like he's just observing things, even when things have gotten weird. He's always had an academic look to him. This is not that academic look. This is not a man looking to study something. This is a man looking to kill something. And
the babushkas show up a few moments later with concern in their eyes, and the militia is with them.
Mm-hmm.
He's wanting to bed one of the banshees.
Fern, at this point, as soon as he notices them, he throws his hood over his head really quickly, because when he's done this before, people have become terrified of him. So he immediately tries to hide himself.
Oh yeah, everyone's pretty scared. That's a fat 7 on their fear test.
His hands are sort of trembling with the drilling run through his veins, and he turns and looks at them and says, "I mean your people no harm."
The eldest of the babushkas, Shurga, as she's been known to you, she comes forward with her shillelagh cane, and she goes, "What vexes you this way?" She's kind of like shakes it at you.
He looks up, those piercing red eyes looking out from that deep dark hood, and he said, "There are children."
She kind of looks around the village. She goes, "Of course there's children."
No, the Leshen had children.
She blinks at you. They had children?
Yes, have. Children.
Have.
I could count 9 of them.
If I can go into that, if I go into that wood right now,
I would not suggest that.
If I find
grandmother.
them, there's children.
Why would we lie to you?
There are children. That man came and stole the mother of those children.
We speak honestly.
The
and that man
just
will
kind of
pay for it.
The babushkas just look at each other with this. I mean, you know how grandmas get when the grandbabies have been placed in danger. Like, nah. These they Wonder Woman, I think, is the term for or Mama Bear, really. And they just kind of look at you three and they go, yes. She just points to the village gate. They just go get him.
And he just sort of nods. And stirring music rises in the background as he marches toward the village to get our stuff.
Matthias says the Fairfoot twins are kind of off on the side. Like they're part of the militia, but they're just weird and cagey enough to like not want to be in. They're vaguely Atean in how weird and standoffish they are, but they're kind of like over by the northernmost gate there, and they're actually dressed for war. Quite literally, as podunk as this place can get, war means many things.
I'm going to roll something real quick to see if I actually even know this. It's in academics.
Go for it.
Okay. Academics. I don't know if you can zoom in there and see those 2 8s there.
Ah, I see it. I see it.
Back to double 8s.
Shit.
Is that twice in one session?
Back-to-back rolls.
That is a
Holy
was
crap.
freaking
probability
amazing.
of
We need to,
1.54% right
Yeah.
there for a crit.
We need to check the balance of those dice.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
Saltwater test.
Yeah, right.
he's already asked at one point about this. He's going to actually go off to the side of the road, find a stick, and draw a sigil in the dirt. The sigil he has no training in any kind of ritual or anything like that.
Oh, shit.
But he is going to do that. And then he is going to pull out one of these daggers and he's going to cut his right palm and shed some blood on it.
Oh, my God. Okay, sorry. Okay.
Basically, it's something that he had read about, and basically how you would summon the hunt. For those who have been wronged. So someone attempting for these things, whether or not, and he has been told that he does not come here. But he's thinking to himself, maybe in this kind of a situation, he might. So, and see if that happens to be, so he may not necessarily do that, but it's if we happen to get there and this guy has met an early demise in some odd fashion, he'll know that maybe this little prayer of his, if you want to call it a prayer, has been answered. So, Thorn would probably know the sigil. So, because him being Don Fairfolk, basically it's an old sigil in the old Fairfolk writing that is calling for the name Auron, which you guys know as he's the master of the wild hunt.
Does Amorous actually know the old alphabet? Because they don't use the same alphabet anymore. Being a master of letters, that's up to you.
He does have a couple ranks in academics. If that was part of the history, he probably would have picked it up.
Okay. Then, yeah, he knows the old alphabet then.
So, yeah.
All right, Fernaleus. What are you going to do?
That literally was that. Well, actually, Tane would recognize this. This is not a true ritual. This is something that superstitious people do. But
he's sort of laying a curse at this at this Slayer's feet, quite literally. And, okay.
So effectively, may his heels be nipped at by the hounds of hell.
Okay.
So that's effectively sort of what it means. So, and there, of course, there's these legends that this figure Auron shows up as a hunter, with his hunting dogs occasionally, and hunts those who have avoided justice and gotten away with crimes that they should be punished for and such. So,
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
What if I were to cast a ritual of endurance on it to give it more power?
You can't actually do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. This is sort of like warding off the evil eye, or
You
like the old.
him with that.
Yeah. It's like the old Irish curses, that kind of a thing. So it's not really a ritual per se. So.
Well, I
Yes.
won't actually say it in public, but Keith.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Remember, you have 3 of those.
I know, and yes, yes, that will be used.
All right, you're going to use a fate point on this.
Yes.
All right. Okay. 6
Listen,
sessions into this campaign, first fate point used. All righty.
Yeah. But yes, he'll invest a fate point into this curse. He is feeling that riled up. So, and then he'll say something into the air to the effect of, may you find no rest in any place, and may may your travels be haunted by shadows and may your travels be haunted by shadows and howls. Yes.
Okay. Perfect. I'm assuming you guys are going to get the hell out of town then?
Yeah. At that point, yeah, I think so. Well, obviously the guys are going to be, part of that decision too, not just me.
Oh, if Shihan wants, actually not Shihan, yeah, if Shihan wants to leave, yeah, right. No, if Vernalius wants to leave, it's totally fine. This this system can support splitting the party.
Well, he's going to stick with his party. He's not going to leave his
Well, I
guys
guess
that he brought here.
you can do whatever you want, whether it's advisable is
Yeah.
that's a different story.
But yeah, he's going to advocate for leaving town and heading to this this other location, this Inweir, as soon as possible. Actually, he'll look to Tane and say, "Is the ox capable of making the trip?"
Tane looks to the faceless entity called Dungeon Master. I'm just I'm kidding.
Short ball headed guy over in the tree.
Wait, who? Yeah, right, him. Fuck that guy.
Faithful
arguing with
overseer.
the narrator.
He ready? He has 1 level of exhaustion left.
2. He has 2. He had 3. You were able to.
Wait, but you took 2 off, right?
No, he had 3.
Because
I took
okay.
1 off. He has 2 remaining.
You're a very giving God.
I am. You're still alive.
So, yeah, he can go with us. We just can't push him very hard. He's an old man. He will do the job, but we can't push him. Have your eyes flared back down?
His eyes are starting to slowly dim down a bit and color back to his natural amber. Especially after doing that ritual, so that he put a bit of himself into it, and a lot of his anger into it. He nods. He says, "Okay, we don't have to push too hard, but we do need to make as much haste as we can."
It's probably about 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah, it's still pretty early day, to be perfectly fair.
Do you think the village might trade us a horse for him?
He's still serviceable. He definitely does different types of work than the horse, but I would think they would be amenable to it, or at least even a loner. I mean, they were very amenable to putting us up and helping us.
And as far as you're aware, that hovel is yours now.
Right. So we may just be able to request them, and I believe they would trust that we would care for them.
Yeah, we can. I think with the way the Bushkill was saying earlier about go get him, they may be on our side as far as the loan of a horse, or at least the trade. So even if it is a trade with promise of bringing the horse back.
But yeah,
what do you think, Thorn?
Oh.
What do you think, Thorn?
Best thing we can do is ask. As people were making talks of preparations and stuff, Thorn would actually break away after answering Fern's question and go grab his loot. And he's going to walk back out to him, and he's going to try to pick the strings again, as it were.
Oh, it hurts.
If he can get, and if he can get it to work just right, he's going to try picking up a not really a war song, but more of a marching song because he knows they have a journey. But he's not going to actually start playing until they actually go to leave. So when they actually go to leave and like at the gates, ready to go, I actually will burn spell points for potentially endurance, marching, keeping the spirits up type stuff.
Okay, perfect. They will trade you a horse for your oxen there. A much younger horse, but I mean, he's a plow horse. He's not meant for riding. We'll put it that way.
You pull the cart.
Yeah, we'll load our stuff in the cart and head out.
The twins meet you on the edge of the village there, and just like a couple of strange-looking fairy sentinels. They just stand there and watch you leave. They won't say anything unless you say something to them, but they'll just there's a lot in that look is what I'm trying to portray here.
With the knowledge that role of academics got me, Fern is going to stop for a moment and look at the two of them. And he's going to say, Aron started the way you did, or the way you are now. Guard those children. But nothing befall them. So maybe if he does ride this way, he may leave a blessing upon you.
They just nod, but say nothing.
He nods back at him and continues on down the road.
Thorn would essentially look at them and give a nod, and in Feywise, of course, tell them to be safe, take care, and I will see you again, and we will talk again. Don't let the Grey Lord catch you.
Nah. Not yet. There's one thing we say to the God of the dead. Not today. And they give Thorn a very, very deep, respectful, kind of intimate bow, and they'll just stand there. Peller will actually take out a long, slender dagger, and he'll actually start sharpening it on a whetstone, and just casually watching you leave. Drops it back into its sheath.
Tane's gonna nod at him. He's gonna sidle up next to the cart and say, "Help me understand the importance of the horns and what happened here." And I would imagine maybe they start sharing with him the back history or backstory of that
So as they say goodbye, and we do the whole, gesture between each other, Thorn will strike up the lute. Actually got a 38 on a song check.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Explode it twice.
Oh, shit.
Gotta love having that plus 10 on that. But yeah, since he's not doing any singing, he actually will be playing this song. Like I said, I will burn spell points to have this song carry through the party. I assume is what would be 3 points, I believe, 1 per person.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, as I'm playing, and best I can while I'm walking and playing with, the one arm. I will look the Tane and go through the whole process of what the horns mean, them being kind of a standard for Fey folk, or at least the Dawn Fair folk, and just how grievous of a crime, or at least misunderstanding, had to occur for them to be taken off like that, and more to the point of even how much more had to be done for them to sear them shut.
The way fair folk horns grow, I mean, you can have them sawed off, which is a little bit more merciful, but you can do it wrong, so it looks like hell. It looks kind of worse. But if you actually have someone barehanded pull them out by the stumps and then sear them shut, it'll actually destroy the follicles and the nerves there. So it's like similar to the way you kill a hydra. You cut off its head and then cauterize it. It's so the head doesn't grow back. Same philosophy there. So these guys have been.
We're gonna fight a hydra later. We need to remember that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. A Thalassian hydra. Oh yeah, I love that fight. Anyway, but yeah, these poor bastards have been cursed to be mortal or look mortal forever. Their horns will never grow back. In some more particularly savage tribes, they actually will clip your ears too, so your ears no longer look fey or oblonged. Those are for rapists and murderers and even more foul things.
Those who defile the groves. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Very good.
Once I'm gonna give you guys a couple days on the road, and you'll be on the edge of the Enwir fiefdom. From the edge, the closest edge to your guys' territory with Adra's people, just a few hours on the road, and you are at the town. I keep trying to call it a city, but it's not a city. I mean, these are much smaller settlements. They're permanent stone settlements.
Thorps.
More like thorps or keeps, walled towns, that sort of thing.
Mott and Bailey, basically.
It's a little bit bigger than a Mott and Bailey, but that's getting really close to it. Yeah. Now, you give the guards at the gate, who are clad in bronze and goldenrod colored tabards or tunics underneath their armor, so you know that you're within the jurisdiction of the place. You tell them who you're associated with. They ask you to see. They want you to prove it, of course, and they make you show them your anklets, and they let you through. You're then directed to the inner keep, which there, you explain that you're agents of Adra, and she is currently having a visit with her sister, her twin sister, of all things. You are brought to that chamber. No need to obviously make yourselves presentable, because vampires don't care. Who is the first one to enter the room?
Want to roll for it, guys?
Sure. Who wants to roll for it?
Sure, why not?
Whoever rolls the lowest, we'll say, enters the room first.
Rolling
one
double
D8?
ones. Yeah, I'm going last.
First, possibly.
Oh,
A 5 and a 4 for me.
I got 8 total.
Oh, well, shit. All right. Guess Fernalice is getting in there first.
Okay. All right. See, I guess he'll stroll in there first. What's he seeing?
Well, it is well, it looks to be kind of like a guest salon, if you will, or a small, what passes as a living room in a castle. And of course, you see Adra there. She had her back to you, but as soon as the door had opened, she's standing and she's turning towards you. And she smiles. I'm quite pleased to see you. Her quite beautiful red locks from her Fire Fae ancestry kind of bring a quickening to your heartbeat there. She's quite striking to you. But there's a woman standing behind her in a very distant relationship of Amorous Thorn will certainly fist pump and scream, yeah, when she stands. Lady Fane Nocturne of Miserine stands and smiles, and of the twins, as if, I mean, they're obviously both absolutely gorgeous, but Fane is obviously the more beautiful of the one. Adra is kind of like the nerd of the two, if you will. If one's the jock or the athletic, one's the book smart one. Adra's the book smart one. And you hear Fane, she just kind of like leans to the side and she goes, Ridian, you've shaved your beard off. Why would you do that, dear? And Adra goes, dear, that's not Ridian. That's his bastard.
That causes me to stop. Just stop still.
And of course, Fane her face lights up. She goes, oh. So Ridian did have children. She actually kind of walks over to you and, like, again, hourglass figure. She grabs your chin, kind of like does it like that. She kind of looks at you, has your face, turns it to the side, and her absolutely beautiful, gorgeous hand. She runs her fingers through your hair.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
She kind of purrs at you while she does that, and she goes, unfortunately, wow.
And as she's doing that, Fern will sort of look at her out of the side of his eye as she's doing this, and he'll say, Ridian?
Yes.
As if he just, after hearing that, his brain is just catching up.
She's just standing there playing with your hair, ignoring you now. I always did like this color.
Where's Ridian now?
Oh, he's in Miserine. This is Adra from the couch.
He literally at this point is sort of at a loss for words. He's just heard a name for his father he'd never heard before.
Yep.
There's a possibility, and his immediate desire, of course, is to go to see him, to find him. But he looks at the lady standing next to him and says, "Are you of relation to Ridian?"
Who are you speaking? Are you speaking to Fane or
whoever's running her hand through my hair?
Oh yeah. That's Fane. She's totally feeling you up right now. She goes, well, and her voice kind of drifts off wistfully, and Adra goes, my dear sister likes to lay with many people, and unfortunately Ridian was not mortal at the time, and that's why you're not of her loins as opposed to your mother's loins. And then she just kind of purrs at you. I think Fane, she's still playing with your hair.
Oh, the look on Fern's face is, it's like at this point, he's like looking at her as if he was looking at his own mother, and he's always wondering whenever she was doing something like this, there was always something bad to come after. It was a test, or it was some kind of a, some kind of a study she was doing. So he's waiting for the other shoe to drop.
So yeah, she's just standing there like, playing with my hair.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think.
What do I do at this point? Yeah.
So no, she's playing with your hair. And she's just kind of like coos to you. He's like, oh, had things just been slightly different, you would have been mine. And there's she very much proves to you that she's not a mom.
Right.
Totally a MILF, but not your mom. When she leans
over
and leans over and nibbles on your ear.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, he's a bit.
No, you're not. No, not mom anymore.
But he wasn't even thinking of her as mom. He was thinking of her as, this my aunt? And at this point, he's like, okay, she's not my aunt. At least if she is, it's getting really weird.
She's like, God, I hope not.
Then again, I am an embryo, so I don't know. But weird stuff happens. But at that point, I'll sort of step to one side so that Tane and Thorn can actually come into the room as well.
Yeah, you're getting a fantastic view of her nibbling on the tip of Fern's ear here.
And he says, and as he, just for a moment, he sort of tries to gather himself, he said, I'd like to hear more about Ridian. I know nothing of him.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Adra says from across the room. Your mother said nothing about him. Aside from the fact that he's a vampire.
She spoke about him quite often, just never gave me a name.
No, he is the Lord of Enweir. He has 4 villages underneath him. Anywhere that you see a gold banner is where his shadow falls over.
So, and he's thinking to himself, the way he's known the other lands he's studied, the other royalty he's read about, and he looks at Adra. He said, "Should I be worried?"
I don't think so. Well, as he is your father, he has a right to take you wherever the hell he wishes. But that's beside the point.
There are some lands, possibly far from here, where a bastard would meet a blade if he were to enter his father's domain.
That depends on if you displease Ridian in any way. Have you displeased him in any way?
I don't know.
Oh, well then. We'll find out. She just smiles at you.
And at that point, Fernley sort of growls deep in his throat. He says, unless he, for some reason, finds some love for this slayer running around.
Yeah, about that. How goes that? I've heard, well, one of our scouts came in just a few days ago and said that the slayer is now here.
Yes, I've heard he was in the village of Castleview Hollow.
And she doesn't necessarily ignore what you say, but she goes, my sister, I believe that I'm being followed, and I don't think it is by a handsome man that's being followed. Although I wish I was a handsome man, but a handsome man of foul disposition.
He does like to prey upon women, particularly mothers. And that comes out bitter.
Fane will say, well, my love, my sister, then as you're not a mother, then you have nothing to worry about. And she puts her hand on Fernelaeus' throat and pushes him against the wall and looks at him lustfully.
Fernandez is going to return the look. He has a number yet, after all.
Mm.
So I'm making a lure check.
Oh yeah. Oh. I mean, well, she's had the older model. She might want to have the younger model. Hey.
Yeah, well, with my lure here, oh yeah, that's a 20.
Well done. She lets go of you and says, "Oh, maybe later, if you're lucky." And she just kind of narrows her eyebrows playfully at you. But yeah, woman, I'm very fucking lucky. Don't even look at me like that with that sass. If you're lucky. She goes back and sits across the table from Adra, and she punctuates her sitting down with a kind of a sigh and says, well, if Rydian is in Mizreen and we're here in his home, then technically the king is out of the castle, so we can do whatever the hell we want here. It's his own damn fault. I don't think Rydian would mind. Adra just looks, I don't think he would mind either. Well, he is having a meeting with Moldark, so he might be gone for a while. The two of them just look up at you three and say, well, make yourselves comfortable. He's probably not coming back anytime soon.
Hey, thank you for the offer. I think we should refresh ourselves on the road. He looks at his two friends. We're like, think so?
Are you certain that you want to go to Mizreen? Because that's Ophira's city.
Well, I do want to follow wherever this Slayer is going first.
Well, if he is here, then
we shall find him. Just know that if we happen to go out to the taverns this evening and you hear of a
scuffle,
you'll know it's probably us attempting to deal with him.
Adra just perks up, and she just bring me back a pretty hit, my dear. And then take it to wherever the hell it needs to go.
He just, at that point, Fernandez's eyes sort of narrow, and he says, I was hoping to take him alive. They don't scream as much when they're dead.
Well, let me see him first. Don't tease me like that. If he's been hunting me for some time, I want to see him.
I mean, but Thorn and I could wait. Thorn and I could wait a little bit if there's a rutting in order. He looks between Fern and this one that was just cooing all over him.
Yeah, Fern just sort of looks at his friends and sighs just a bit, and he says, "I think I would like to wash the dust of the road off of myself before I were to present myself in such a way to such a beautiful lady."
I'm pretty sure she'll clean you if you ask her nicely.
But I wouldn't presume.
Fane just looks up. He's not wrong. He's never wrong. Never wrong. Though, then again, I have many mortal lovers. But not many children. I don't know why. Sister, why do I have no children? I don't know, my dear. You just like barren mates. I don't. Fernaleus, how many women have you conquered in the mortal lands?
He sort of stutters. A few.
So how many bastards have sprung from your loins?
I have no bastards.
Well, then, Fane, yeah, I'm sorry, then you're not.
By the way, this is one of the few times you will actually see Fernandez with color in his face.
Yeah, right. Blush. Yep,
a few.
Just a couple.
His voice sort of cracked when he answered that. So,
And with that, I think we will close this session. A bit of a cliffhanger here. There's a lot going on in this scene, a lot to unpack. As you are dismissed, we'll go to Tane, as he has probably had the most happen to him this session. As the door to the salon in the Keep of Ridian closes, the stage lights come up to illuminate him. You're walking down this stone hallway. Let's hear it, my man.
Tane is just imagining being in a boat on a rushing water. In a way, he kind of chuckles to himself that he feels as though he's past the first rapids. And while they were quite lengthy, so far he is a little older. He looks up and says, hopefully a little wiser. He's thinking to himself, Agun. But I'm getting closer again to my mare. I have my friends surrounding me. And I am going to have to write a book about these adventures, though. I betted a banshee. He just grabs his forehead like this. But he is thankful that he doesn't feel the taint of the shadow on him. He looks over at his friends and he almost reaches to smack Thorn on the shoulder, and then he remembers the injury, and he just kind of reaches across then and gives him a hug and punches Fern in the shoulder. She's still feeling damn good. Not as good as that morning, but he's still feeling pretty good.
And with that, we will go to Amorous Thorn as the stage lights illuminate him. What do we see?
Oh, Thorn is still kind of, I guess, riding that high from the song he did when they were marching. Part of his brain is, I guess, still in the throes of ecstasy that he was able to play that well concerning his injury. Upon seeing the twins, though, and hearing all that transpire, he kind of looks at Thane. I mean, besides the beauty part, which, I mean, come on, we're all going to be drooling over anyway. But he actually looks at her, like, beyond the surface, as if once again trying to pluck that distant memory. But after a while, he just kind of shakes his head after Thane keeps flirting with Fern over there and just dismisses the thought of, no, it can't be what I think it is. Basically, for a moment, he had almost an out-of-body experience of an ancestor and deja vu of seeing this lady again. Besides that, when Tane here gives him the support he was going for, he actually almost felt the air getting ready to hit his shoulder, and he kind of does that like inward, like, oh, here it comes. But after that, he kind of just he gives his friend a smile, and he's just kind of thinking now, he's like, I'm tired. I want to clean up, and I actually want to see if I can play again.
Beautiful. And finally, we come to the pale, maybe like slightly pink form of Fernaleus. His blood is up and quite stuttering. His blood is up, and he's been flattered by a beautiful woman. It's not happened in a very long time. What do we see?
Well, with the thoughts running through his head just seem to be chasing each other at the moment. One is that, yes, a beautiful woman has looked upon him with favor, and that, he hasn't had that look from someone that anytime he has been looked like at that before in the past, it's always been a tease, because they would always basically feel or were afraid to actually go through with it with the Fernless. He actually has never actually lain with a woman in 200 cycles, because they always, because of his vampire side, they became fearful. And obviously when his blood's up, his eyes glow red, his fangs come out, and it would scare them off. But at the same time, he's also, that thought is being chased around by the fact that his father is Ridian. My father is Ridian. My father is Ridian. Ridian is his name. I am in his house. And was mother here? Was I conceived here? Was I born here? Because he doesn't sure if he was born, where actually he was born per se. And these thoughts are chasing through his head, and there's also this this desire to hunt down and destroy his slayer now, all running through his head all at once, and these passions are coursing through him, and it's almost like he is in a cacophonous storm of emotion, something he's not used to feeling a lot of, and he's almost drunk on it at this point, because he thinks, my father comes home, will he accept me? Will he look at me and actually see a son, or will he look at me and see, oh, another one? Or how, basically he wants to ask every question in the world about his father, but he's afraid to ask, one, and two, where would he start? What's the first question to ask? It's sort of like that whole the scholar's dilemma. You want to know everything, but you have to write it down one word at a time, and which word to start with. And, he's thus suddenly stuttering, as he can't seem to even remember proper speech. So he'll reach over, and if there's something to drink nearby, he'll just pick up a cup and just throw it back.
Amazingly, there's a cup of blood there.
Yeah, so he'll throw it back, and of course that electric feel will run through him of that fresh blood hitting his tongue, and bring him back to the moment. And he'll lick his lips and look down at that swirling crimson fluid in the cup, and just get lost in it.
As the stage curtains close on that scene, a few moments later, it opens back upon the streets of far-off Felport. Just like last time we had a look, there are Arborians dressed for crusade, lounging in the streets. There is the song of fairy kind on singing lips. There are Arborians mingling with the local people. A host of their bearded folk allies have arrived 2 days beforehand. Now that there's a tent city of bearded folk from the far off west in those mountains there. They've recently recovered from a horrible plague that has stricken their people. The bearded folk are ready for a fight. They want to put this behind them, this time of sickness. They've plenty of good fighters left, and their allies are going to war with Tehran, as they would defile a temple of the Thunderlord. No, is punishable by horrible things. Now, a missive comes from across the sea to the Overseer. We see the Overseer, who's a young half-breed himself, young-looking half-breed. He is half Ebon folk and half Umbriad, but it is impossible to tell his age. This missive comes from the speaker of Lekra from across the street, the seas, and this reads, "Most High King of the mortals, I beseech you, please do not come. Do not bring Felport to the sands. This is a fight that is not yours, though the dogs bark at our gates. And as I, the speaker of our deity, I write this to you in chains. I am imprisoned by these tyrannian foul things, these devils of the wastes. You cannot come, but please, if you are able to help our kin, please send ships." This quickly spreads throughout Felport and has lit a fire under the collective asses of the Arborians that have enlisted with the local guard and the Felport military, where they all turn in their resignation in mass, which makes up about 15% of the Ebon Guard. With that pressuring Felport and the local politics of the city, the Overseer does something what most of his mortal kin would consider insane. He allows the Ateans to enlist in the military. Thousands of Ateans enlist as sailors. They now wear the colors of the city and are given a modicum of respect in the city. For the audience's understanding, the Ateans are kind of like halfway between the Jews in the Jewish ghettos in New York, as well as the Irish in the 1800s. They're not well looked upon by anybody, and they're kind of shit on. They don't have opportunities like the rest of the city should. But the fact that they're allowed to enlist, huge thing. And with that, a stream of sailboats, sailing ships, and a great long ebon chain across the sea, ready to make war on those sands and turn them blood red. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back in a couple weeks. I would like to take a moment to wish Keith a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Keith.
That's next week.
We will not be here, but we'll
Happy
be
birthday,
back.
Keith.
Well, thank
Happy
you.
birthday, old man.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
definitely.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.